My name is Nathaniel Curtis. I am the project's public involvement specialist. Before we start, I do want to recognize a number of elected officials in the room, including Senator Eldridge, Representative Hogan, Chair Salvi of the Board of Selectmen, Selectman Burke, and Selectman Ryan. The Senator and the Representative, we thought we would offer them the courtesy of making some opening remarks before our MassDOT team begins the official part of tonight's program. So, and obviously, any of the selectmen who would like to join, all right, that's very good, gentlemen, thank you, but your state officials, folks.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I will be brief, but I wanted to let everyone know, first and foremost, I am very, very pleased with the progress the Gleasondale Road Bridge Rehab Project is on. I think that everybody has been working together, that all of these meetings that we've been having along the way as we arrive at the 25% design public hearing tell us that people are listening, people are working to make sure that everybody's voices are heard, that there's access both to the bridge and to the river, and I'm just very, very pleased, glad to be here tonight, and glad to see so many people because everybody's still, the MassDOT and the state are still taking comments. So thank you all for being here tonight, and I pass the mic over to Senator Eldridge. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Representative, and I want to thank MassDOT for coming out here for the 25% design public hearing, and really want to thank Representative Hogan and her staff for being the lead on advocating to make sure that the Gleasondale Bridge has improvements, that some of which she talked about, the corridor access for boating, canoeing. I know that we heard from a lot of residents about the bike lanes, and I've seen the PowerPoint presentation by MassDOT, so very, very encouraging, and it's obviously just such an historic bridge and historic neighborhood. I also represent Hudson with Representative Hogan and, of course, Stow, and it's a critical road connecting the two towns, the two downtowns. You think about all the apple orchards on Route 62. It's one of the most historic roads in the district that I represent. So the project is so critical and so important to the town of Stow. So I just wanted to be here to lend my support, and of course at the state level, you know, we continue to advocate for state funding to make sure that this program and this bridge proposal is finished on time. I know it's been very frustrating the past few years with the single lane bridge, but all things considered, it seems to have worked out fairly well. And that's what I've heard from abutters as well. So once again, thanks very much to MassDOT for being here. And if I can be a resource, please contact my office, or if you have any questions after tonight's public hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator and Representative. At this time, I'd like to bring our MassDOT project manager, John Fallon, up. I will be handing over the microphone, and I will be dimming the lights a little bit so folks can see the screen a bit better. Take them away, John.
Thanks, Nate. As Nate said, my name's John Fallon. I'm the project manager for the Gleasondale Road Bridge project, which will be presented tonight. I work in the Bridge Project Management section at the Mass DOT headquarters in Boston. Once the hearing is complete this evening, the attendance sheet will become part of the public record. So if you want your attendance to become part of the public record, we have a sign-in sheet in the back. Also, there's a public hearing handout that talks a little bit about the project. It's also available in the back. So just to go over the agenda really quickly, we do introductions. We'll introduce the project team and the members, talk about the existing conditions that are out there, project goals. We'll talk about what we're proposing to rehabilitate the bridge, talk a little bit about construction staging, our thoughts on that currently, and then we'll open it up for public comments and testimony. I just would like to sort of emphasize that we want to hold all questions to the end of the hearing. It just helps things as we go forward. So at this point, I'd just like to go through some introductions. So from Mass DOT's District 3 office, we have the Assistant Bridge Engineer, Mickey Splain. Our right-of-way representative from Mass DOT is Melissa O'Day. Our consultant representation tonight from Fuss and O'Neill is Jamie French and Kristen Hayden. Our public outreach coordination consultant is Nate Curtis, who you met earlier, and Taylor Miller. Our stenographer tonight from Arlington Typing and Press is Greg Tarbucks. He'll be making a verbatim transcript of the hearing tonight. The public hearing notice was placed in the Metro West Daily News on August 1st and August 8th. It was placed in the Beacon Villager as well as on August 1st and August 8th. And the notice was also in the Stow Independent and Bolton Independent. And those dates that it appeared was July 26th and July 31st. A copy of the public hearing notice will be attached to the final hearing transcript. So part of the project team there, Mass DOT in-house bridge design group is doing the bridge design, and Fuss & O'Neill will be doing all other highway design, utility coordination design, environmental permitting. Howard Stein Hudson, as I mentioned earlier, are assisting us with the public involvement. But I also want to point out at this point that the town of Stow has been a great team member in this project through the preliminary design, helping us out identify important aspects of the bridge location and concerns of the citizens. So the public hearing handout explains the purpose of a hearing, which is it gives Mass DOT a formal presentation of the proposed project, and it gives us time to get public feedback on the design to date. So the project we're representing or presenting tonight is the Gleasondale Bridge Rehabilitation Project. It involves replacing the bridge's superstructure, which is basically the top part of the bridge, the surface that you're driving on, the beams. It also includes new bridge railings, new north abutment, and some minor approach roadway work. We're currently in the preliminary design phase, or 25% design phase, which means we've developed an alignment, an option that Mass DOT's able to present to the public for comment. We estimate that the total project cost will be approximately $6.5 million, which will come from 80% will come from the Federal Highway Administration, and 20% will come from Mass DOT. In order for this project to be funded and advertised for construction, it has to be programmed on a statewide transportation improvement program, and this project is programmed in the 2020 federal fiscal year. So the money has been programmed and allocated for this construction. The estimated cost does not include any right-of-way acquisitions. Design is expected to be completed in the summer of 2020, and at this point, we estimate that the construction duration will be 2 to 2.5 construction seasons. As you're aware, this project's purpose is to address the current structural elements of the bridge that are causing the current bridge narrowing with the one-way alternating traffic pattern. In a few minutes, we'll have the design team. We'll get into the presentation and the particulars of the project, but before I do that, I'd like Melissa O'Day from Mass DOT's right-of-way will come up and just give an overview of the right-of-way process.
Thank you, John. Good evening. My name is Melissa O'Day, and I represent the Right-of-Way Bureau at Mass DOT. The Right-of-Way Bureau is responsible for acquiring all the necessary rights in private and public lands for the design, construction, and implementation of this project. The current design plans indicate that fee takings, permanent easements may be required. Other areas may also require temporary construction easements. Affected property owners' rights are protected under our Massachusetts general laws, primarily Chapter 79. If a project is receiving federal funds, the property owner's rights are further defined under Title III of the Real Property Act of 1970 as amended. I will be happy to answer any of your general questions regarding the right-of-way activities during the open forum for questions, and I will be available after the public hearing for any specific questions you may have. Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. Before I turn it back over to Nate to get into the rest of the presentation, just want to just make note that the details that we're presenting tonight are preliminary engineering plans, so they're might be questions that you have that we can't answer at this time, but it also means that there's still final design work that needs to be done to fine-tune the particulars of this project. And just once again, just please hold your questions to the end. And let's turn it over to Nate now for a couple slides.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciate it. Okay, so this is our project area right here, the area that I'm circling with the laser pointer. That's the bridge in Gleasondale. We have the homes of some of our abutters who we've joined on a few site walks. And then, of course, as the senator mentioned, we have some of the apple orchards around here, this being a very important road. This summer, my toddler has developed a fixation with a book called Picking Apples and Pumpkins. So I have a feeling I may be joining you in the fall. I will try not to be an obstreperous driver when I get back. So the existing conditions that are out there, this is a picture of the underside of the bridge, and you can see those deteriorated conditions. There are other photos that are worse, but I thought that's a pretty good one. It's pretty indicative. So as all of you who live in town are aware, the bridge has been in its condition of a single lane in each direction, alternating with the traffic signal since 2015, when there was a bridge inspection, which weight limited the structure, put it into its single controlled lane, and the single sidewalk down one side. As John mentioned, there are parts of the bridge that are really past their useful lifespan. They can't be repaired. That includes the deck and the rails being the part that stops you from toppling over when you're looking at the water, the beams, which support the roadway deck, and then the northern abutment. As it turns out, the southern abutment is in reasonable condition and will be reused. So between the southern abutment and the northern abutment, some big differences. So the project context, and the senator touched on some of this, the representative did as well. It's an important commuter route. It is a key trucking link. We know there are heavy trucks that travel this route. It's access to Stow's Pick Your Own Apple Orchards between Labor Day and Columbus Day. We know that's a very important time for the town's economy. It provides access to the Gleasondale Industrial Park, the former Woolens Mill. And we know from our efforts with the Stow first responders, we've coordinated with them several times. 62 is an important corridor for first response, just moving through the area. The bridge is closely abutted by homes to the north and south. We are aware of the canoe and kayak launching point on the bridge's northeast corner. We know the Assabet is an environmentally sensitive resource. And we know that right now the bridge in its current condition is subject to a stepped-up schedule of inspection. And when that happens, the bridge has to close with assorted traffic and travel impacts on all of you. As we get through this, one thing I wanted to draw your attention to, I know John has asked you to hold your questions. One thing to help folks know how much longer they have to hold their questions, we do have this sort of gas gauge. So as this green bar creeps across the bottom of the screen, the closer the green bar gets to the number, the closer we are to being at Q&A. Getting to today, the design effort was launched in 2017. As you can see, we've had substantial public outreach, including just beginning with office hours. I recognize some folks from my initial visit to Stow, where we sat in town hall and just asked people what they thought about the project. We've met with Stow frequently. The other thing that I would note is that in advance of this meeting, John ticked off all of the places where the meeting was advertised. In advance of this, there were flyers placed in the corridor to either side of the bridge on homes there. Drops of flyers in the town hall, the post office, and the public library, and then we spent 2 hours last Thursday distributing flyers at your Shaw's on 155 Great Road, just to try to make sure that we got enough people to this meeting tonight, which I think we did. Good turnout, and with that, I'd like to bring up John to take us through a few more slides, and then we'll turn it over to Jamie to take you through some of the engineering piece.
Too many things.
All right, I'll advance it for you. Don't worry.
All right, thanks, Nate. At the beginning of the project, project goals were established and identified, and through some of Nate's efforts and Howard Stein Hudson's efforts on the public outreach, we identified some of the goals that we wanted to achieve with this project. In rehabilitating the bridge, it will achieve the bridge to be brought up to current design standards as far as the highway design and the function of the facility. We'll bring it up to the requirements up to current day standards. Also, some of the goals were obviously to return the traffic to two-way traffic, one lane in each direction, to provide sidewalks on both sides. We heard that bicycle accommodating shoulders were very important. Reducing inspections by rehabilitating the bridge. Right now, the bridge is on a 6-month inspection schedule that involves some closing of the bridge and work on the bridge on a frequent basis. So by rehabilitating the bridge, that will no longer be needed on that frequency. Another goal was to maintain the footprint of the bridge, the size and the width and how much area it takes up. Another important goal was to not preclude any future town improvements as far as the adjoining street network that they may have planned in the area. So the proposed bridge that we're talking about tonight, some of the improvements will include 2 10-foot travel lanes. There will be a 5-foot bicycle accommodating shoulder. Right now it's 4 feet. We'll be putting back 6-foot sidewalks currently than what's out there today and extending their limits in some areas. The bridge will include a new crash-tested railing and end posts at the back of the sidewalk. One of the things that we heard through just coordinating with the town was that the views of the river were important to the users of the bridge and the residents. So we modeled our proposed bridge railing on an adjacent one that's in Hudson that you'll see examples of in the presentation. Also, the proposed bridge right now, the drainage on the bridge, the roadway drainage goes directly into the river through scuppers. So with this project, we'll be able to take that drainage off the bridge and discharge it indirectly to the river with treatment. So an improvement on the drainage in the area. So at this point, I think I'll turn it over to Jamie to get into the good details.
Thanks, John. So this basically shows what the bridge is going to look like when it's done. As it was mentioned before, this up here is the northern abutment. This will be completely replaced due to its condition. Both of these in the river are the 2 piers. Those will be maintained, as will the southern abutment down here. We'll be going in and doing some work just to patch them up and get them up to where they need to be. But they're in good shape, so we'll keep them. Everything you see up here in the bridge deck, the girders, the deck, all of that will all be replaced and will all be new. It's going to look a lot like it does now. But better, yeah. So part of what we need to do to construct the project is relocate a lot of the utilities. Everybody around here knows there's a lot of overhead utilities there. There's quite a few in the ground as well. So the first thing that we're going to do is move some of the utilities. There is a utility pole that's somewhere in here. To get to that pole, we will have to create an access in this sort of shaded red area here. Typically, we would remove that access and restore it with grass and whatnot, but because this is where the existing put in for the river is, we are going to leave the majority of that access in there. It'll be about 5 feet wide. It'll have a gravel surface. It'll have a little bit of drainage on the inside corner so that water will drain in this way into the river, but we will leave that there for folks to use for access as they do now. This is just a view of the bridge looking south. Once it's all done, we'll be extending, oops, wrong button. Oh no. There we go, sorry. So we'll be extending the sidewalk down this side. We'll also be extending the sidewalk a little bit to this side, about to the end of the guardrail. This is where that access is and the put in for the canoes. You can see over here, here's the mill entrance as well. South. And here it is looking north. Again, why am I keep hitting the wrong button? It does, it does. It's that laser pointer. So again, here's the mill entrance, and then looking north. So this is the bridge rail that John had mentioned. It's a standard Mass DOT rail. It'll allow people to see the river, and the standard color is black on that. So the construction staging. The bridge will be built in 2 stages. Right now, we're estimating it'll take 2 to 2.5 construction seasons to complete the construction. We'll be replacing half of the bridge at a time. It's basically going to be in the configuration it is now for the first stage, and then we'll just flip and do the other side. Pedestrian access will be maintained throughout the duration on the sidewalk that is open. We will have the need to fully close the road for a couple of construction activities, those being removing the existing bridge and setting the new beams. This is because we have to use a crane to do it, and the crane placement will take up the majority of the roadway width, and also swinging those components around. We don't want to do that over active traffic. It just isn't a safe condition. That work, right now, we are intending to do those activities at night. So we are estimating right now to remove the existing bridge will take about 3 12-hour nights. To set the new beams will take about 2 12-hour nights. That will happen in each phase, so it'll be 60 hours of closure in each phase. And they won't be all at the same time. The first one will happen pretty quickly, and then the next one would happen about halfway through that stage. And we have also coordinated with emergency services, fire, and police, and have concluded that nighttime is the best time to do it. So this is the existing configuration of the bridge with the lane closure. When we come in to start construction, you'll see that half of the bridge go away. The first thing we'll do is all the utility work, and then we'll come in, replace that abutment, patch up the piers, and then move on to the deck. Once that side is completed, we'll flip it. We'll put traffic onto the newly completed phase, and we will move on to completing the second phase of construction. And again, this is what the completed bridge will look like. Again, you see the access there for the canoes. So this is just the plan view. This is the same plan that you saw on the board over here. One of the questions that has kind of come up is in the southwest corner, which is right over here. As you kind of come around this corner, there's a stone wall over here, and that's really limiting the amount of width we have. And in that area, we can either do a bike lane or we can do a sidewalk. However, we don't have enough space for both. That's a photo of it. So you can see there's a very, very narrow shoulder there, and you can see the stone wall to the left of the photo. So we can't disturb that wall. We can't go the other way because of a house. So we kind of have to pick and choose what we want to do there, and that's one of the items that we're looking for feedback from you guys on, is what you would like to see there. So if you have any thoughts on that, please let us know during the question and answer period. So for the canoe and kayak access during construction that's there now, that will basically be closed for the duration of the construction. The entire area is going to be a construction zone. It's going to be ripped up right away to put the utility work in there. So it's really just not safe to have people going into that area. And it will be closed till the end, and then it'll be left as we have it. If there are other areas where folks can put in a canoe, preferably downstream from the construction site, Mass DOT is willing to work with folks to make sure that that information is out there so people know where to go. We are doing work over a stream, which is obviously environmentally significant. At this stage, we will be making sure there's protections in the contract so the contractor doesn't get silt and sediment into the stream. We also are aware that there are septic tanks and wells that are very close to the project site. Those will be noted on the plan so that the contractor knows he has to provide the appropriate protections. And at this point, I believe it goes back to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Nicely done, Jamie. So, Jamie spoke about how, we've determined something about the best timing for that work that will close the whole bridge. That was coordinated via a series of meetings that we held with your fire and police chief here in Stow. They've been extremely helpful on this. So, you know, as you saw, we've worked with them quite a bit. And some of the things that we've agreed on is, so when the contractor is going to undertake those closures, probably the first people to know outside of the MassDOT resident engineer for the job will be your fire and police chief, who will receive 30 days notice in advance of any closure of the bridge. The fire department has offered to reach out to other surrounding first responders. They do apparently a daily radio check to something like 30-odd communities, so they will be able to, you know, broadcast that news. They will determine if stage equipment is needed to the south of the bridge during periods of full closure. And then, you know, one of the things is, in particular, when the bridge is closed, there is a need to detour traffic. At present, the most close logical detour route also has a weight-limited bridge on it. So part of what we would need to do during those full closures is work with Stow Police as well as the Mass Motor Trucking Association to really get out the information to truckers so that you don't wind up with a truck kind of going beyond the point of no return and getting trapped adjacent to the work zone or one of the roads near it. We will not, the outreach, that's me actually right there. I'm wearing this shirt but not this tie. You know, the outreach will not end with construction. So we anticipate that there will be a public information meeting probably in this room in advance of the construction beginning. The contractor will, you know, show up and appear in this room, and, you know, you can meet them and understand how they're going to undertake their work. MassDOT has gotten very good in recent years about issuing regular emails on project progress and what's ahead. So we have projects where basically if you've joined the stakeholder database, which all of you who signed in have already done, you will get an email every couple weeks saying, this is what we achieved in the last 2 weeks, here's what you can expect in the next 2 weeks. Obviously, there will be specialized outreach in advance of the full closures to really, you know, clue people in, similar outreach to what you saw in advance of this meeting, trying to get people either electrically or in person. We have had a lot of, you know, around some of the closures for inspections. We've made sure to reach out to the orchards. You saw the slide earlier. The goal of the project is to undertake those nighttime closures outside the apple orchard windows. But obviously, we would reach out to them anyway because we know how important this is. And then, I don't know if folks remember TomTom. You remember the ad? We're lost, Susu. But TomTom, if you can believe it, they've kind of gone underground. They actually provide the back end for the directions here on the phone. And so through some of the work that I've done with MassDOT, I've gotten to know Tara Race, who's the lady who basically pushes all the updates from Massachusetts out into the phones. So as we get into some of these detours, we'll be reaching out to both her and TomTom to get it in people's phones, and then the mass motor carriers again, just so that we don't get a long-haul truck getting past the point of no return on a detour route. And so John is going to come up and do next steps, and I think there is literally one more slide after this, and we'll do Q&A then. Sure.
Thank you. Thanks, Nate. So just want to quickly talk about some of the next steps and some of the permits that are required. So right now we're at the 25% design hearing. So the next design submission would be the 75% design, which we anticipate will be in the winter of 2019 or early 2020. 100% design would then follow in the spring of 2020. Similar with the preliminary design, we would share those design submissions with the town and the departments therein in the town for their feedback and comments on those design submissions. So right now we're carrying an advertisement date for construction in the fall of 2020, and what that means is the plans would be made available to contractors to place their bids on, and if they're interested in doing the construction for the project. And we anticipate construction beginning in the spring of 2021, and right now we anticipate the construction to take place to 2 to 2.5 construction seasons. As we develop the design plans and specifications through final design, we'll get a better handle on the construction duration. As the design develops, we can refine that frequency or that period. As mentioned earlier in one of the slides about the importance of the resources in the bridge area, there's some environmental permits that we'll be filing. One is the Section 106. It's with the Mass Historic Commission, and what that does is make sure that we're not doing anything harmful to any historic or archaeological resources in the area. Just from our early coordination and investigation, we don't think we are, but Mass Historic Commission will make a decision on that. We'll need to file a water quality certificate with Mass DEP, and this is Mass DEP administers the Massachusetts Clean Water Act for fill that occurs in waterways of Massachusetts, dredge in the river or filling of the river or resources. We'll also need to coordinate with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on a Section 404 permit, and the Army Corps of Engineers administers the Clean Water Act at the federal level for federal jurisdictional issues with regard to impacts to waterways and resources. We'll also need to provide that proof that we're compliant with the National Environmental Policy Act, and we'll need to do what's called a categorical exclusion permit. It's a list of questions that documents or tries to elicit if we're causing any significant impact at all, and we're fairly confident that we're not. So before I open up the public hearing to public comment, I just want to go over a couple of ground rules that we have just to help this part of the presentation go smoothly. So, as I mentioned earlier, the public hearing is to solicit input regarding this project. As the plans are not yet complete, aren't complete, we're in preliminary design, there may be some questions that we might not be able to provide you an answer with now. So anyone that wishes to speak, we'd like to have them come forward to this general area up here. We have from Arlington Typing and Press, Greg is doing a verbatim transcript, and the microphone's here, so we'll help him pick up the information that you want to share with us. And we'll need you to state your name, spell it, please. List what your affiliation is, if you're in a butter, local official, or whatever. And again, this is for us to get a verbatim transcript. Also, for people that don't want to speak tonight, there's a mail-in sheet for your comments. It's available in the public hearing handout. You can, write your questions or comments on that and leave it with me tonight, or mail it into Mass DOT within 10 days, and we'll respond to those. So finally, it's normal procedure to ask if any elected officials want to offer their comments first, and I know we had a couple that did earlier, so I don't know if there's any federal, state, or local officials who would like to speak at this time that haven't spoken. Sure.
Jim Salvi, S-A-L-V-I-E, member of the Board of Selectmen. First of all, thanks very much for being here and doing this. This has been an important part of this process ever since, I think it was October 2015. Have you guys communicating with us regularly? 2 questions and a comment. First of all, I think you answered this, but I want to make sure. Will you be giving residents notice in particular of the 3 or 4 12-hour night work sessions that will be occurring?
Yes, definitely. It will, in all likelihood, and this is based on discussions that I've had with John and Mickey, but it will likely be us who will likely stick with the job. Gentlemen, is that still correct? Good. So Howard Stein Hudson, the public involvement firm, which has worked on the project so far, will continue on with the general contractor in some fashion or another to help provide that notice. So yes.
Will you give them notice in enough time to make alternative arrangements if they don't want to?
If they would like to take a motel room elsewhere?
If you want to call some relatives?
Sure. Yep. We would typically try to provide at least a week's notice. on a thing like that.
Okay, maybe a little bit more than that, if that's possible?
If we can do 2, we'll do 2.
Okay. The utility corridor access ramp is a very nice feature that I wasn't aware of. Just a question about how that'll work. Who will own it? And will that entity, I guess presumably DOT, will you be giving an easement to the town for public access?
That's a very dotty question.
Right now, as it's shown on the graphics, it actually, it takes place on state-owned land that's associated with the bridge, so it would remain in the ownership of the state. So,
But I'm assuming the idea is that there will be public access.
yes.
So will it be something either in the chain or an easement granted to the town to keep that in the chain of title?
You know, that I don't know right now, but what we envision is it being accessed as it currently does today. So I'm not sure if there's any easement today on that land, but we wouldn't, you know, preclude anyone from accessing this land as they do today.
I guess I'm saying I'd like people to, if possible, to have a right to go on the land. Something that, if it were ever to be taken away, would either be difficult to be taken away or we'd have to be given notice of it changing, if that's possible.
Yeah, I would need to look into that.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. And then finally, a comment, and this is as an individual, you asked for feedback on whether you should build a sidewalk or a bike lane in that narrow area with the wall. I'm a cyclist, and I have to say a sidewalk makes sense since bicycles can go in the road and pedestrians really shouldn't. Please give some thought to, if you do that, to the transition from bike lane to road. There are several places in Arlington and Cambridge where a bike lane suddenly disappears and all of a sudden you're in the road, or even worse, a bus lane, and there's no notice to the bicycles or the buses, and that kind of thing becomes very important.
That's a really good point that we'll make sure in final design we'll, whatever.
Some kind of signage or road markings or something like that that shows that there's a transition going on.
Yeah, great point.
Thank you.
Thanks. Is there any other local officials that'd like to speak? Sure.
My name is Alyssa Coolidge. I live in Gleasondale, and I'm also a tenant in the mill. And Coolidge. I was wondering, at this time, do you know what, if any, land you are planning to take from private owners?
I don't know if Jamie or Kristen, you guys want to speak to that? And I mean, if there's a specific interest to
This is a
something
general
to,
question.
well, yeah, the project's going to include temporary and permanent easements for the work associated with the project, but if there's a particular parcel you want to talk about, we can talk after the hearing and roll out the plans.
Right now, we have a bridge
Mhm.
and private land on either end of it, and I'm just wondering, the bridge looks a little wider. Is it going to encroach sideways on the land at the end? Is it going to extend further than it now goes?
The bridge is going back is primarily the same width as the existing bridge, but
Okay.
as I mentioned, there might be some temporary easements that are needed for the contractor to construct the
Yeah.
bridge. Again, if there's this particular area, we can talk afterwards and can roll out the plans, but Jamie, if you have any.
There will be some temporary easements, mostly just to give access to the contractor to get down to the river, to get to the
Mhm.
piers and that kind of stuff. There'll be some minor permanent takings, and that's mostly for roadway slopes near the ends of the guardrails and things like that. So there's not going to be a lot of major changes.
Mm-hmm. Thank
And
you.
no major takings.
The mill will not go poof. I'm just in the chair.
Okay.
Okay, folks. Other hands. I think we're through our stack of elected officials. So if anybody else? Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
So my name is Bill Ross from 521 Gleasondale Road. I wondered if there was any.
R-O-double-S for the gentleman? R-O-double-S for the stenographer?
Yes.
Very good.
I wondered if there was any thought to, in the design, to limit the speed going across the bridge and what the speed limit going across the bridge was going to be, and so that's my first question.
So Jamie can speak a little bit more to that. However, if you noticed here, and close your eyes if you get motion sick, but one of the things about the bridge is right now the shoulders are very narrow. So you see here 2 5-foot bicycle accommodating shoulders and 2 10-foot travel lanes. So part of what's actually been done is to reallocate the space on the bridge a little bit so that the travel lanes that are out there will be narrower than they are today. And the way that we managed to get the bridge to occupy roughly the same space it does today, but provide those bicycle accommodating shoulders, is to take that space from the travel lane. So we are actually looking at going to a 10-foot travel lane as a traffic calming and traffic slowing device. Typically in an urban environment, you will see bicycle and pedestrian advocates push for a 10-foot travel lane, especially on turns, as a way to slow down vehicles. So that is what we sort of view as kind of a speed control device. Jamie, do you want to say anything further to that?
I believe the speed limit out there right now is 30, and it will stay at 30. So that we, right now, don't have any intention on lowering it.
So I live just past the bridge on the south side, and it's been my experience that people come across the bridge and step on it and speed through there. So if there could be some realignment so that when you came off the bridge, you weren't heading straight into that little straightaway there, I think that would calm the traffic also. I don't think people come across there at 30 miles an hour now, and I don't think if it's straight coming off the bridge into that southward part of the Gleasondale Road, I don't think they'll be going 30 then either. So if you could make it so that the bridge points more toward that stone wall that is where there's not much right-of-way, and then people would have to turn. That is what they've done at the where Marlborough Road comes off Gleasondale Road. There's a bit of a turn you need to make that keeps people from having the speed straight through there. That would be helpful.
It's going to be difficult to change the orientation of the bridge because we're keeping the existing substructures.
I know that it's
so
difficult
we're not
to
really
make
going to be able to.
the orientation, but the way you put lines on it and the way you construct the sidewalks and the bike lanes might, even a few inches here and there might, calm the traffic a bit.
Yeah, we can look into it, but it's pretty tight out there now, with the bridge width being what it is. We only have so much room we can work with, and we have to make the alignment fit back and match and back into the existing. So we'll be a little bit limited, but we can take a look.
I understand what you're saying, but to what extent you can do it, I would appreciate you trying.
If I could just add one quick thought on that. We are aware that the town of Stow is looking into like a complete streets sort of study in the bridge area for the streetway network. Our project is specific to the bridge, but we are aware that they'll be looking into improvements in the street network in the area that could possibly maybe address some of those concerns as they go forward. So something to think about.
Hi, my name is Alan Fierce. It's A-L-L-A-N. Fierce is F-I-E-R-C-E. So I live up in the northeast part of town, but I'm on the board of ORS. And just a general comment, I want to say thank you for listening to our concerns about at least not eliminating the informal put-in that we have right now at the Aspet River there. I think your plan with respect to the utilities and leaving that access there for, again, probably an informal put-in is a terrific idea. So thank you for doing that. I just want to get on the record some of the things I talked about with staff earlier. One is the parking. Right now, it's a very informal off-road parking for maybe 2 or 3 vehicles that come in with canoes or kayaks on the roof and need to unload and get down to that spot. And we talked about that earlier, and my understanding is that you'll do what you can to continue to allow that kind of informal parking to occur there. So that's good. The only downside is, of course, that during the construction period, we aren't going to have a canoe or kayak put in there. And just, I guess this is a question just to confirm. It sounds like, based on when construction is to begin, spring of 2021, and then end anticipated fall of 22, or maybe another half a construction season, as I understand it. So that's the period of time then we will not have the access at all to put in at the river. 2020, the paddling seasons of 2021 and 2022. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the only thing that I would add to that is, what we did have, we noted that, where is it? I want to thank Oars for coming to the office hours in 2017. The comments that they made were very well put together. I admit I forget the name of the 2 ladies who joined me that evening, but they were extremely pleasant. And I think, if there are other locations that you know of in the area that allow people to access the river, we are happy to generate materials for you that you can disperse to your membership to say, hey, this is closed, please go here, just so that, for 2, probably the second year people will know what to do, but that first construction season you might get people, bumping off of it and going, hey, there's a bulldozer in my canoe launch. So, we'd be more than happy to, help out with that, because we recognize it is important to you.
All right, I think we're going to need some signage or something to warn people not to go down there at the spot they're used to going while you're doing your construction, because it could be dangerous for both the paddlers and you. I just want to put on my biking hat for a moment, because I also was advocating for the 5-foot bike lanes. You've got that in your plan. Thank you again. I think that's terrific. Regarding Mr. Salvi's comment about what to do with the bike lane, I second that. We got to make sure the bike riders understand what they're doing. I think a worse option would be to have the bike lane end and send the bike rider off into a gravel, siding there. I'm happy to ride in the road after I get over the bridge. It's really nice to have that space on the bridge, because there's nowhere else to go. So, again, just thank you for being responsive to our comments. I've been to many public hearings over the years, and in many cases, comments just get disregarded, and I thank you for being responsive.
You are very welcome, sir. Thank you for your comments. Other hands? Jesse Stedman, Town of Stow.
Yeah, thank you, guys. So yes, Jesse Stedman, Town of Stow, Town Planner. If you guys could just explain, I know MassDOT has a pretty stringent right-of-way process. When would folks who might have a temporary easement or a permanent easement, when would they first be contacted? How would that work? I just want to try to avoid any surprises when that time comes. Thank you.
Should we bring our friendly neighborhood ROW specialist down to, because, right away is the one thing in this whole process that actually scares me. So here we go. Give it to someone who knows what they're doing.
So the process, it'll be assigned to us. It's probably going to be about 8 months prior to construction beginning. And then we'll come out and we'll explain everything to you, to the property owners that are affected. Yep. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think I just want to get a general time frame so that people are thinking.
Well, so if it is, what did we say? It was spring of 21? 2020? So it'll probably be, yeah.
So what, that would be kind of like March, April, May-ish of next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Kind of
It's like
Q1
8
into
months.
Q2. Other hands? Going once, going twice? Then it falls to our MassDOT project manager to declare the hearing closed.
Before I close the hearing, I just want to, say thanks to the town again, not only for the use of this facility, but also just through the preliminary design with Jesse Stedman in the planning office, Mike in the highway department, and the police and fire have been great on this project, and we look forward to working with you guys during final design. So with that, it's 7 p.m., and I declare the hearing closed. Thank you.